Hey, you. You with the teeth. Come here. Come over here. That's better. Now I can see you. You know me? Of course you do. That's because I'm famous. But even before I was famous, I was still somebody. And I got respect. See, you don't have to be famous to get respect. You just have to be somebody. And that means being confident in who you are. Being willing to take chances and risks falling on your face. Because that's the only way you're gonna learn. And that's what I'm here for.
Dad, there's no cereal.
Because if you're not somebody...
I pity the fool who don't eat my cereal. You know who Mr. T is, right?
Yeah, he's the guy in the cereal box in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, right?
Yeah. But... Honey?
Yeah,
What do you know Mr. T from?
the A-Team.
See, my son knows who Mr. T is. He's got to know who Mr. T is. Yo, you know who Mr. T is, right?
Yeah.
From what?
From you.
If I say Mr. T, you know who I'm talking about. But did you ever think about why? Is it because of the A-Team? Rocky? The cereal? Wrestling? I think we sometimes forget just how big Mr. T was. Figuratively and physically.
So if you wanna be cool, just like me, you better try real hard to beat somebody.
I mean, if you ask me who Mr. T is, I kinda have to pause for a second. Sure, he was an actor, but if someone who didn't know asked me who Mr. T was, simply saying he's an actor doesn't feel right. Because he wasn't just an actor. He was Mr. T.
The name is Mr. T. First name is Mr. Middle name is that period. Last name is T.
Mr. T walked a thin line between scary villain and tough as nails no-nonsense hero. He wore all those gold chains, he had that cool mohawk, and that kick-ass feather earring. He was an enigma who started out as a heel, but ended up becoming the hero the 80s desperately needed. My first memory of Mr. T was in Rocky III.
Come out fighting at the bell.
Dead meat.
Clubber Lang. That name, Clubber Lang. Clubber Lang. You know, the guy who beat the crap out of Rocky. Not my Rocky! I mean, Rocky won the second fight, so I mean... I hated Mr. T after Rocky III, but then I saw him in the A-Team as B.A. Baracus. He wasn't so bad, just crazy. Then after that he started hanging out with Hulk Hogan and Cyndi Lauper. Hey, maybe Mr. T's actually a nice guy. A nice guy that would kill you if you did something wrong to him. He was also the star of his own movie called DC Cab, but I was too young to remember it. I remember the poster though. Mr. T standing on a taxi, ripping the door off of it. But from that point on, Mr. T was popping up everywhere. I'm not even exaggerating. He was everywhere. Cameos on Silver Spoon, Different Strokes, even that weird show Out of This World, the Alien Daughter or something. Yeah, he was on that. He appeared on Letterman several times. He hosted SNL with Hulk Hogan. He even got roasted by Don Rickles on the Dean Martin Celebrity Roast.
I love the black people.
There were Mr. T dolls and action figures. He had his own cartoon, and not many people can say they had a cartoon based on themselves. I mean, Chuck Norris did, but to say it was successful...
Chuck Norris stars in Chuck Norris Karate Commando.
You know what? Maybe I should keep my mouth shut. You never do know where Chuck is lurking. He had comic books, children's books, he rapped.
Believe it, cause every word is true.
He sang.
Anxious for the hard-earned money she spent to keep clothes on my back and tried to pay the rent.
Even tried to play the cello.
Wow!
Okay, that's not true. But he did sell some hardcore car polish.
TR3 goes on easy, stays on hard. Makes your car beautiful. Like me.
He made appearances on talk shows telling kids to stay in school and stay off drugs.
I just want to shake some sense into you kids that are using drugs and thinking about using.
He even helped the First Lady, Nancy Reagan, give out presents for Christmas. She sat on Mr. T's lap, for God's sake. She even gave him a kiss. He also had a show called Mr. T and Tina. Wait a second. I think that's Pat Morita. Oh, here we go. He was also in a show called T&T.
T.S. Turner was a city smart kid fighting his way off the street until he was framed for a crime he didn't commit. Amy Taylor was a young crusading lawyer. She mounted an appeal to put Turner back on the street. Together, they are T&T.
You also can get a Mohawk grenade and play as Mr. T in World of Warcraft.
How do you explain the Mohawk grenade?
He even appeared on Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Hola, señor T. ¿Puedo hablar un minuto con usted?
¿Qué se te ofrece?
Yeah, I could only find the Spanish version. The man had his own board game. The Mr. T board game. The man had his own board game. They had a toy that played all his catchphrases.
I pity the fool. Don't make me mad. Quit your jibber jabber.
He had his own Halloween costume. You could dress up as Mr. T for Halloween. He even made an appearance on the Love Boat. That's not true. I just thought it would have been cool if Mr. T got to go on a Love Boat. That's all. There's so much stuff that Mr. T did that I'm almost having sort of a panic attack, worried that I'm not gonna remember or be able to gather all the information about him. Side note, originally Mr. T's gold chains came from customers at the nightclub where he worked as a bouncer. People had either lost them or left them behind after a fight. I think we all can agree that for a period of time in the 80s, Mr. T was the man. The reason I do these shows is because someone or something will pop in my head. Certain things that were so big that it was hard to believe at the time that those things would disappear to history. Mr. T holds a place in our brains. Every one of us has a little Mr. T in their brain. I pity the fool who doesn't have a little Mr. T in their brain. So as always, thank you for backpedaling with me. I hope we learned something today, maybe had a little bit of fun, and maybe you can give yourself a nice mohawk, maybe put some jewelry on, feather earring, maybe start using some Mr. T catchphrases a little bit more often. Thanks for backpedaling with me. I'm Tig, and you are... It's amazing how many places people know Mr. T from. So many things. Chicken Dynasty! So, what do you remember Mr. T from? Well, that makes sense. We should stop meeting like this.